formed as a result of a major government scheme to expand the Territorial Army. The parade in Exeter marked the transfer of the unit from the Wessex Volunteers to the new 4th Battalion of the Devon and Dorsets. The regiment will have rifle companies in Plymouth, Paignton and Exeter, with a support platoon in Weymouth. Members were given their badges to replace the old Wessex Wyvern by their commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Steptoe. The men will be given frontline training to put them on a par with professional soldiers. And ladies are not excluded. It's hoped membership, for both sexes, will rise from 100 to around 450 over the next 2 years.
Stirring music. Well, the government has promised.
A 4-week-old piglet at a Cornish farm is having a bit of an identity crisis. He keeps mistaking a Jersey cow for his mother. The piglet first squeezed out of his pen at the Trethorn Leisure Farm near Launceston when he was a few days old in order to suckle from the cow, Daisy. He was so small that she had to lie down so he could reach. Since then, he's been sneaking into her stall every day, and Daisy's taken to the little pig as if he were her own calf.
That could be a confused pig. Military history has been made today in the southwest with the formation of a new territorial army unit covering the 2 counties of Devon and Dorset. With its headquarters at the reopened Wyvern Barracks in Exeter, the battalion plans to recruit more than 300 volunteers between now and 1990. The army says they'll be drawn from all walks of life and used to defend mainland Britain against the threat of invasion. David Willis reports.
Now more than 300 years old, the Devon and Dorset Regiment was born out of the Duke of Wellington's fears of an imminent contretemps with the French. Down the years, the D&Ds have been involved in a range of battles overseas, including recent action in both Belfast and the Falklands. Now, under government plans to enlarge the Territorial Army nationwide, the Devon and Dorset Regiment is forming a new volunteer battalion, using as its nucleus part of the now defunct Wessex Battalion. At an official rebadging ceremony at the weekend in Exeter, soldiers from the Wessex Regiment had their badges replaced by those bearing the crest of the new 4th Battalion Devon and Dorsets. By 1990, the plan is for these part-time soldiers to be joined by another 300 volunteers, making the battalion's total complement up to around 460. The question is, can the Army attract that number?
I think we will. There is a lot of support within the 2 counties for the county regiment, and I have no doubt that we will be able to recruit them.
Why do people do it? Why does it appeal to them?
I think it appeals to them because it gives them something different to do from their civilian jobs, and because for many of them it's an opportunity to commit themselves to the country and to the local community.
Recruitment for the Devon and Dorsets is soon to start in Plymouth, Paignton, Exeter and Weymouth. Territorial Army recruits are expected to put in at least 35 training days a year, during which they're taught how to handle weapons, including guns, as well as such practical skills as map reading and first aid.
Our role in time of war will be to defend key installations and areas of the United Kingdom against the possible threat from any enemies we might have.
What sort of installations?
Well, we could be involved in guarding ports, docks, railways, communications networks, communications installations, anything of that sort of nature. Anything, indeed, that the government feel is critical.
Are you still saddled with playing down something of a Dad's Army image?
In some people's eyes, I think perhaps we do have that image, but it's totally unjustified. Our equipment is every bit as good as the regular armies, and our commitment in terms of the soldiers we have is just as high.
Recruiting for the TAs is nothing new, of course, although the financial rewards are slightly better now than in 1857, when a bounty of £2 was offered to recruits willing to punish those who'd committed atrocities too dreadful even to think of.
Well, from defending the country to defending a very important section of our...
Yes, marvellous crossback, and a good volley, and actually...
It was a super volley. A detachment from the old Comrades Association was there too.
The 1st Battalion of full-time soldiers is based in Wiltshire. The volunteer force from the 4th Battalion is based at Wyvern Barracks in Exeter. After inspecting the troops, the Lord Mayor of Plymouth presented the Freedom Scroll. The regiment then exercised its new right to parade through the town with bayonets fixed, colour flying and drums beating.
Colourful happenings in Plymouth.
This weekend, the Devonshire and Dorsets were awarded the freedom of the city of Plymouth. It's only the 3rd time that the armed forces have received the honour, and the first since 1962, though many people believe it should have happened many years ago.
By the right! Quick march!
Two former county regiments were amalgamated 30 years ago, but the separate histories of the Devonshire and Dorsets go back to 1685 and 1702. In 300 years, their battle honours include Flanders, Salamanca, Plassey and both World Wars. In 1918, the Devonshires were almost wiped out, holding their position against an enemy advance. They were the first British unit to be awarded the Croix de Guerre by the French government. In the 1980s, the Devonshire and Dorsets, who have no permanent home, have seen postings in Germany, Denmark, the Falklands and in Northern Ireland. It was a 3-year tour in the province, which meant that wives and children went too. Over a third of the regiment is recruited from the Plymouth area, and the majority of the rest come from the 2 counties. In a few weeks, units from the regiment will return to Northern Ireland for what's known as emergency duty. It was planned well before the recent outrages. The tour will include foot patrols in West Belfast, where 2 young soldiers from the regiment were killed in 1986. With their strong links with the southwest's largest city, it surprised some people that the only services to be honoured with the freedom of Plymouth have been the Royal Marines and the Royal Navy.
Yes, I know. That doesn't matter to us. Today's the day, and let's make that one very special indeed.
Despite the bitingly cold wind, there was a good crowd on Plymouth Hoe to see the handing over of the casketed scroll that conferred the honour on the regiment. Also there, an uninvited guest that definitely wasn't the mascot, despite his almost military bearing. There were many present who thought he might, and many soldiers who hoped he wouldn't. He didn't and marched off. For the regiment, the final act was the ceremonial march through the city streets, with bayonets fixed. It's only happened twice before, and is unlikely to happen again. It has very little to do with modern warfare, but that's not the point. It's a way for a city to salute its own regiment, and it brought with it a great amount of pride.
Do they look good today?
They did indeed, very smart.
Proud?
Very proud indeed. They have not let us down one bit, thank God.
The Devon and Dorsets and non-mascot
winners by a magnificent goal.